just then you had 54 Ultra with Where Are You? Relatively mysterious kind of dude. I couldn't find much online, but he's based out of New Jersey, and John describes his sound as cozy music for you and your loved ones to enjoy. And then at the top we had Jack J, Falling Down a Well. Jack J is one half of the Pender Street Steppers, co-founder of Mood Hut Records, and he brings you Blue Desert, his second major release. I think you really like his previous album, but that has just been released pretty recently, November. Blue Desert, one to check out for sure.
Yeah, that's a beautiful song.
Yeah, haunting.
I feel like if there's a bit of lo-fi house stuff in the first one, we might see a bit more Jack J later on in the season.
I sent you a Jack J lo-fi house track a few months ago.
Did I diss it?
Yeah, big time. You're like, yeah, sorry, brother. I was bored. I was like,
Okay.
No worries, man.
Maybe not. Back to
it is
the break
very
beat.
much more lo-fi house, very subtle. Like the changes, aren't massive shifts in energy. It's just like an added layer over a little sample or, some reverb or something like that. So it's a little bit more subtle, a little bit more background enjoying. However, still very technical, like beautiful music.
Mate, I'd be down to hear. I reckon we'll be able to find one song off that album that'll absolutely vibe, and we'll have it for you maybe Ep 8, Ep 9, Dan.
I think so. What's been taking up time in the head of Tom Barrass?
What has I been doing? I suppose, Matt, at this point in time, I'll be fitting to a new footy team and doing a bit of pre-season. And I've got
your favourite?
My absolute favourite, winning all the races in pre-season, setting all the records.
Yeah, running really fast.
Yes, doing no vomiting. And I have to figure out what I'm going to do for my last little bit of my university studies.
Yeah.
Got 5 units left to fill that up with, and just trying to figure out what are the parts of my philosophy degree so far that I've enjoyed the most.
Yeah.
To try and inform my next few units, because some of it can be really super interesting and some of it can be quite dry and quite hard to write about, not particularly relevant.
Yeah. What are the parts of your degree that you've enjoyed most so far then?
Gosh, there's probably a few units that stand out.
Yeah.
I really liked the philosophy of psychology and psychiatry.
Yeah.
So it kind of explored different psychological studies around human behaviour, and then philosophers sort of gave their opinions or critically assessed those in relation to human understanding.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. So there's a few experiments where human rationality and self-knowledge fail really bad. So one of them is called a confabulation study.
What can you define confabulation, or is that the name of the study?
No, confabulation is the name of the study. Confabulation means you're just lying. You're just making something up, right?
Yep.
But human rationality and self-knowledge, it's kind of given that humans, when they remember things, they're right. Or if they're telling you things about themselves, they're right. Or humans typically do what's rational, right? You try and look after your rational mind. However, in the scientific field of psychology, there's lots of studies where humans don't perform well in that test at all.
Yeah.
And so philosophers make conjecture about, well, hang on, are humans self-knowledgeable and are they rational? So the confabulation study, I'll show you 2 women.
Yeah.
And I'll say, which one's prettier? And you'll say...
left or right? Left.
And as you say left, I say, great. And I show you right. And I say, why? Why did you pick the left one, even though it's the right one? And almost every time you just make up a reason. You just go, oh, it's because she's got beautiful eyes and a nice jawline. Even though it wasn't the person that you said that you originally picked as the most beautiful.
And the reason for that being?
Is that apparently you just don't remember and you don't adequately know the reasons why you picked her.
And that's due to like a multitude of factors, one being the pressure you feel you're under, the perceived pressure of being in that.
One, you're being tricked.
Yeah.
But even though in the face of the trick, you're unable to find that you're being tricked. Not many people go, oh, hang on, I didn't pick that person.
Yeah.
They just give you a reason. They just lie straight through their teeth. And most importantly, that person doesn't know that they're lying. They think they're telling you the truth. But of the 25 cards, I flipped them all, and you gave me completely honest reasons that you believe about why you made your selection, even though you didn't.
Jeez.
And so anyway, that was really interesting. There was that part of the unit.
What was that called again? The confabulation.
Confabulation studies.
Yes.
And then, there was some really interesting stuff about the use of psychedelic drugs in treating addiction, depression, and depression. And there was another category of illness.
Yep.
And then there was also
most likely mental health.
There was also normal people.
Yeah.
Right. So there was also a control group of just normal university students.
Yeah.
And they sort of administered these people psychedelic therapies, and then had another group, or they have lots of data on what control groups are with Xanax or benzos or the sort of other drugs, pharmaceutical drugs used to treat mental health problems. And they found that an overwhelming number of people who did the psychedelic therapy cured their depression, addiction, or had valuable increase in their life, not through a certain dose, but whether or not they had a mystical experience.
So it's a certain dose couldn't be measured, but if they got to
the anecdotal
breaking through, as some people say.
Yeah, that anecdotal declaration of, I had a mystical experience. I saw an entity, a god, a universe, a spirit, who knows what, I haven't been there. But that was the mechanism which people cured their addiction, cured their depression, eating disorders, everything, right?
Yeah.
And even helped healthy subjects have a relationship with the universe, right? And the numbers for the Xannies or whatever it was 2% to 8% efficacy, let's say.
Yeah.
And in this trial, it was like 75%.
75%
of people.
And that's running alongside some other healthy forms of rehabilitation.
Yeah, I'd imagine it's abstinence, and there would be a controlled study, and I will be the first to discredit science on the basis of poor study design.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying this is be all and end all, or it's right for everyone, but it's just really interesting the differential in the efficacy of the two trials.
Yeah.
But also the mechanism that made people change. It wasn't like, do this every day for 30 days.
Yeah.
Or 2 years or whatever.
It was like a random dose, different for everyone. However, it was the entity, the god, the otherworldly experience. It
was the profound nature.
That is so wild.
Of having an encounter or an out-of-body experience, or an experience that's so different to what you usually have.
Yeah.
That dwarfed their problems in the perspective.
Yep.
Give them such incredible perspective of what they were doing with their life, so that they were reborn into the earth almost, not with that issue. But it was just such overwhelming stats, and there's been a groundswell. It kind of sits next to meditation and spirituality in this kind of conspiracy type world that I explore with Graham Hancock and that in there. But it's a really interesting topic. And I was going to say.
Have you seen any of Gabor Mate's work?
Yeah, Gabor Mate, yeah. About trauma and addiction.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. There's another really good guy. I can't remember his name, but there's a really quality podcast if everyone wants to listen to it. It's with Aaron Rodgers, Dan, Jamie.
NFL player.
And an NFL player, and a guy called look it up, man. You'll find it, but it's on Spotify, and it pretty much tells the story. Excuse me. It pretty much tells the story of a bloke, Aaron Hernandez. He tells his own story.
Yeah. And
he's a quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. Is that correct, Jamie? Thank you.
Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback.
Yeah, and
not Aaron Hernandez.
Oh, wow. What did I say?
Aaron Hernandez.
No, that's a different thing.
He did a different thing.
That's a different thing. That's not in union with
someone.
God.
So Aaron Rodgers didn't kill someone.
Didn't murder anyone, but he does
now he left the Green Bay Packers. Now he's at the New York Jets.
Aubrey something podcast, and Anyway, there's a lot of crying in it, and it's actually kind of interesting. Their Aubrey Marcus show.
Yeah.
Link in description at PTA.listen. But he tells a really interesting story about his journey with I think it was ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And long story short, he was a mediocre type player, and he had this experience in the Amazon, or a number of experiences with his buddy, and they're crying and sharing love, and it's really sentimental. But eventually he sort of broadened his perspective on his life and what he was doing, and then he won 2 Super Bowls and 2 MVPs, like the next 2 years, because he just had this internal change from, fear and worry to love and acceptance and excitement, and his football and everything just sort of reached this apex. But yeah, I really recommend you listen to that. It's definitely worthwhile, and I don't know, if you're a little bit tentative to talk about those kind of things, it might be a nice introductory podcast, because there are a lot of overlapping themes between all these areas. And I thought, as a university student studying second year uni, to be studying these things in class, it's not taboo anymore. It was like, hang on, this is my lecturer teaching me about the future of psychoactive therapy.
Yeah.
And there's some really crazy studies as well amongst PTSD.
Yeah.
With MDMA.
That's what Gabor touches on a fair
Gabor
bit as well,
Mate, and it's just really interesting, and I thought that was probably the first unit that I've really enjoyed, and maybe
and really connected with.
Really, not really connected with, but it was my most. It was the one I connected with the most. It wasn't the first, but it was the one that was the most profound, because it was so different to anything I'd had before. It was contemporary. It was new. It wasn't, John Locke from 1854 or whatever that book was written.
Yeah.
It was really new. It was kind of scientific, and I think that's where cool areas overlap, where there's good study design and good science, and then you have critical analysis of that.
And people are getting helped from the study as well, and there's overwhelming evidence. And when you can see that, and there's this, almost this faith in humanity's kind of being restored, and sometimes a faith in science as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you could find lots of different scientific articles that'll tell you seed oils are good, or eggs are bad, or who knows, vegan, keto, carnivore.
Carnivore's the only one. Vegan's the only one.
Yeah, and it's just like, look, well, if you don't control people's well-being, all these much more internal factors than what you can physically reduce and measure, then the study's kind of a bit dodge anyway. So I think that what I loved about that unit was, the crazy nature of what they were talking about, the ineffable nature of what these people were going through, but also the sort of impact it had on their life, and then the conjecture around, okay, what does that mean?
Yeah.
If you can,
what are the next steps? Because there's 75% is a lot better than 2 to 8% efficacy.
Yeah, and that Jordan Peterson, he talks about it with neuroscientific components, and he just straight up says, man, they do not know what to do with these people who go to these therapies, come back, their lives change, but they say, I just spoke to 15 aliens and they showed me my past and my future, and then it all became clear. It's like, that doesn't really fit into our understanding of human consciousness or spirituality. So I found it really interesting to be studying in uni.
Amazing. I reckon that was super cool. I will maybe put a little disclaimer in there just about health and drug taking. I'm going to cut this out, but that's epic, man. I reckon let's play some songs and let's get into some more.
For sure, maybe a few relevant ones.
I would love some relevant tracks.
Okay, man, I'll hit you up.